hosts. I'm here with John and Trevor. How's everybody doing today?
Phenomenal.
Exhausted.
Exhausted. So at least one person's telling the truth.
Yes. And we know
Why
who
you gotta
that
call? We just started. Why do you have to call me out like that?
Oh, damn it. Okay. Well, it is what it is. No, I'm actually excited that we're here to talk about this because this topic just this week, and I don't know if it's because of the fact that I put up a couple of notices talking about how this is coming up, but the whole why camaraderie disappears and how to reclaim it, it's been coming up quite a bit. So I'm interested to see how this conversation is going to go. Does anybody want to kick us off?
I guess I can start. I mean, the thing about the military that I think everyone romanticizes is those relationships and the trouble you got into, the times you almost died, whatever it may be that we romanticize. But when you leave the military, you leave that built-in forced friendship group. And I think that it's just like what we're doing here, the three of us. You build new relationships through that common bond of suffering. It's just different flavors of suffering, but we all share those same things and we all understand it, to where if John told me about a time when he was in third ID or first Cav and did something, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't do that, but we did something similar at Bragg, and so forth and so on. And everybody understands shared experiences more in the military than you do anywhere else, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Hey.
Well, and more than just that, I mean, it's not deployed to a combat zone or something stupid that you did at Fort Bragg, but everything in the military is structured, whether it's our mandatory fun time or it's our we have to go and all get up in formation at 2:00 in the morning to do a urinalysis, or if you're a junior person in the military and you all have to go out there and rake leaves or whatever the case may be. I mean, you don't do it alone. You do it with other people, and it you go from one station to another station to another station, but most places operate almost exactly the same way. And so you always have that embrace the suck mentality with another group of people, and you don't have to go through it alone. But in addition to that, if you need help with something and you are in a solo situation, unlike in the civilian world where you don't have, unless you build the network like the three of us have, you don't have that person to pick up the phone and call and say, this has been a really, really crappy day, and I need help with this. This is the situation, blah, blah, blah. In the military, you have that. Even if you're brand new to the post, you can call over. I was a mobility warrant officer. I could call over to another brigade and call another mobility officer and say, I'm having this problem. How do I fix it? And immediately, not only do you talk about that problem and how to fix it, but you start talking about all the dumb stuff that happens on that post that you're on, and you immediately have that camaraderie.
I'm going to trigger everybody watching this with two words: brigade run. And
No.
well, but to that point,
my shins hurt already.
But to that point, remember how far in advance at the platoon level we had to be there for the brigade run. And we all sat there for hours complaining about why we were here 15 minutes before 15 minutes before 15 minutes before 15 minutes. And it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, everybody feels that pain of those two words. And that's, JJ literally just described why I created why I named my show The Disgruntled PM. Every project manager is disgruntled in some way, shape, or form, and we always commiserate with each other. It's very rare that we talk about it and say, I had the greatest win today in my project. It was, this thing irritated me because I can't control it, because my whole job is influence rather than authority.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your
Actually,
take on everything?
For the episode, we should change PM from project manager to private manager. Since we're talking military.
Private manager.
Sounds naughty, sounds perfect for the show.
Oh, yeah, it does. Well, you know what?
Wait,
You brought
did
your
John make the first inappropriate reference this week?
Yes.
It's all right. Hey, there's another one. You bring up the mandatory fun run or whatever, the brigade run, whatever you want to call it.
The
But what
morale
about the
run.
pass? What about the pass and review?
Oh,
So those of you who have been in the first Cav division, you know that the first Cav will have a parade every week. And I kid you not, circa 2005, the division threw a parade on the parade field to honor the fact that this was the 1 month they did not have a parade. And they were celebrating by having a parade.
All American Week.
Calvary Church. Oh, no, not American Week. Not Clean Sweep. No. Never.
I will take your first Cav and I will raise you to the 82nd because
I'm about to throw my chair. I'm leaving.
Well, for those who have not spent their time in the 82nd during All American Week, it is a division level pass and review.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are unlucky enough to be in the formation for the pass and review, it is a week of rehearsals in the sun, in the summer at Fort Bragg. And we just sit around for hours on the parade field, standing there, rehearsing for probably about 30 seconds of what we actually have to do when we salute. And then otherwise it's just standing at parade rest, stand at attention. And then in between those rehearsals, we're all just standing in formation, smoking and joking, laughing and cracking jokes about how miserable this is and how we all needed to find something better to be assigned to do to get out of this.
Hey, but you forgot this for All American Week is actually a 3-pronged system, because if you're not on the parade field, you're either part of Clean Sweep or you're part of the jump team.
Hey, I'd happily be a part of the jump team.
Oh, I got to do the jump team once, and it was way better than the parade field and definitely way better than Longstreet.
But I can tell you I had the best assignment one year on All American Week.
Oh, your DD-214 day?
No,
yes.
No. I was actually involved in All American Week, and I had the best assignment you could possibly get. I was in a Delta company, so I was mounted. So I was a mounted platoon, and I was manning the gun in one of the trucks as we drove by for the pass and review.
Brilliant.
So all I had to do was just stand at the gun and not do anything. I couldn't even do that.
You had one job.
Exactly. But we got to avoid 90% of the BS because all we had to worry about was making sure the trucks were clean and running, which, light skins. So that's a challenge in and of itself.
Once you turn it on, just don't turn it off and you'll be all right.
Right.
Make sure the exhaust sample is good.
Yeah.
So, John, you brought up the DD-214. So we had all these shared experiences while we were on active duty. Why is it, and it's rhetorical, obviously, we're all going to have our own point of view, but why is it that when we sign that DD-214 and then we walk away on our last day of military service, somehow or another, that one thing that we were so excited about ends up being something that could potentially be a huge crisis in our lives?
Well, I'm definitely going to say it's because of the unknown, right? You're excited about it. You're amped up, right? Because you're thinking in the context of the now of like, oh, I'm going to be over this BS. I'm going to be walking away. No more silly formations. No more standing on the parade field, right? No more clean sweep. No more this and that. And you're thinking of the right here and right now. But there's a reality past the military service, right? And that's still, yes, you get a job, and yes, you still raise your family and you do all those things, but it is no longer the same. But you're still in this kind of mindset that it's going to be the same. Oh, I'm just going to go to work and I'm going to do these things. It's just, I won't have to do PT and I won't have to do this. Then reality hits you. And that's that kind of bittersweetness of it is something new, but it's also something you likely have not fully experienced in your adult life, right? There are exceptions to this, but for the most part, your 90 percentile military service member, regardless of enlisted or officer, this is their adult life. And now they're going into a new era that they never actually fully lived in or truly experienced. So that's the part that hurts. And it's almost the same shadow on those re-enlistments, right? Especially on the enlisted side, because there comes this turmoil piece when you're talking about re-enlisting, like, well, on this one hand, I already know everything that's going to happen. I know all this BS. Do I want to still continue with it and deal with it? But the other hand is, I don't know what outside looks like. So where do I stand in this, right? And there's other factors that play into this, but at the simplified level, those are your weighing options is what you know and what you don't know, and what is most beneficial to you at that point in time. So that's kind of that transition through the 214 stage is that building factor. And then reality hits day 3 outside of that 214. And that's when you're flooded.
When you've gone home, you've gotten out of the uniform, put on your sweatpants or gym shorts, sat on the couch and played video games or watched movies for 2 or 3 days. And then you're like, okay, well, now I've got to go do something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the novelty of I don't have to get up for PT, I don't have to go anywhere, I don't have to do anything wears off. But there is something else that I think John missed too, is when you're in the military, you're surrounded by almost forced friendships in a lot of ways. And then you try to keep those relationships going when you're out, but you forget, oh, they're going out to the field for a week, or they're going to the rifle range, or they're doing night ops, and I'm not a part of it anymore. So you start to drift a little bit because you're not in the club, you're outside the club. And if you're not in it, you're not in it. And even when you PCS, it's the same way. Like once you leave that club of that unit and that battalion and that company and that platoon, even if you went to a different brigade, you're not in the club anymore.
Yeah.
You're not in the club. You're out. Like it's the craziest thing. And fast forward maybe 10 years, you'll reconnect with a few of those people. But once you're out, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and on top of all of that, it's the opposite of what I brought up just a few minutes ago, in that, you don't have that person who holds a similar job to yours, or maybe you don't know the way that the structure works where you're at. So you don't have that person that you can call when you need to talk about something. You don't have those shared experiences where when you're standing around in the smoke pit where you can haw around about all the things that you did. But the great thing is, and I think this is what the main purpose of this month's conversation is that you can rebuild all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to start off that part of the conversation in saying that you're not alone. And I hate to tell you all that feel like you're alone right now and going through something that's new, but you are not unique. Everyone, well, not everyone, again, like John said, there's the 90%, right? Most people, when they get out, they go through the same struggles, the same mindset, the same problems that you're going through, and you don't know unless you know. So if you've gone through it, you already know everything. I don't even have to go into it, but you know what that feels like. You know what that turmoil and that lack of camaraderie, that lack of structure, that lack of discipline, that lack of everything that you're used to and have been used to for years of service, it just goes away. But it can be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to start that conversation in saying that if you find a location with a bunch of other veterans, you can start, because the moment you start talking about those shared experiences that you had on active duty, somebody is going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, hell, that happened to me too.
I'll challenge that and I'll say we are magnets to each other.
Yes.
We truly are, because I remember every single job I've ever been at, I sniffed out the other vets just by having a conversation, and they would say something and I'd be like, what branch were you in? And they'd look at me and go, how did you know? I'm like, I was Army. How did you, and then the conversation started. And it's, like I say, that certain phrases just give it away more than others. And I remember I was walking and I was trying to build a relationship with the PMO director I knew he was 82nd. I knew he was an officer. I knew he was in aviation. And I saw him one day and we were chatting and I said, yeah, I was just had my second kid. I'm surviving on coffee chased with monsters, just like my days back at Bragg. And he stopped. The whole conversation shifted to, okay, we now have something in common that not many other people in this building have. And let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that we all pick up on that civilians don't.
Well, not only that, but just the other day, I went over and I had to go get windshield wipers for the wife. And I went to the auto parts store because we get a discount there. And the moment that I asked for the military discount at the counter, the guy that was at the next counter over looked over at me and he's like, well, they never give me a discount. And I'm like, well, do you come here often? And
Sailor?
Like, well, yeah. And he's like, well, that's why. They're trying to make you ask for it. They're trying to make you work for it. And then we started talking about our service and all this other stuff. But, so we all have the same struggle. Feel free to start the conversation.
Let me jump in on that one. My daughter's Girl Scout troop leader. My wife and I had to go over to her house to drop something off, and I noticed her husband's car had Army plates on it. So naturally, I asked the wife, I was like, oh, when was your husband in? She was like, oh, I don't know, before we met. Next time I had to go I volunteered to go drop something off to help my wife out. And he was in the garage and I walked in there and I was like, when were you in? And we started talking and we overlapped in Iraq in a lot of places, just different units, different details. But we spent a half an hour just BSing about the war overseas, Army time. And my wife was like, I thought you got lost or killed. Because we were gone for so long because me and him were just BSing about Army days.
Did you ask him if he likes his car because his car says Army?
No, I did not.
Well, you should have. Hey, missed opportunities.
He was an officer.
Sorry, we couldn't go a whole call without saying that. I'm just saying.
Not at all. There actually is one thing I want to bring up because it's going to come up a little later in our discussion, but there's a point, right? Someone separates, and this is more aimed at the people who maybe do 1 or 2 terms of their contract, and then separate. So this is more exclusive, not including your retirees, but I've been trying to pull up statistics on how many people separate from the military and then come back in within 1 to 2 years. Now, I'm not finding any clean numbers or clean study, but what I have found some very rough numbers, pretty much from 2008 till current. It's estimated that 80,506 enlisted individuals had separated and then returned at some point.
Does that account for Guard or Reserve?
It doesn't specifically say, but based on kind of how it reads, I would assume that it would count going into the Guard or Reserve. But again, the caveat to this is it's a clean separation. So it also excludes how you can kind of leave active duty but go straight to the Guard Reserve. It's excluding that. We're talking hard 214, you were civilian for a year or two before you put the uniform back on in a form.
Well, when I was at Bragg, I was listening to an ops NCO he was a career ops NCO. We all know the guy that never stops talking. And he said something to me that was really kind of profound. He said, a lot of guys talk about getting out and going to go conquer the world, go do college, go conquer business, all this stuff. And he said, I asked him, what happens when life gets tough or the world doesn't go your way? And the answer is always, well, if I'm within this time period, I can always come back in and keep my rank and come back in the Army as my backup plan. And he looked at me and he said, if you ever say that, just go to reenlistment now. Don't get out. Don't tease yourself with what civilian life is like. If you get out, stay out, burn the boats, plan on life getting hard, kicking you in the balls, doing all that stuff, and just keep going, because the moment that you think about this is your backup plan, you forget every single reason that you chose to get out and come back and romanticize it, come back in. And then 6 months after you re-sign that contract, you're miserable again because you chose to get out. You had the out and now you're miserable and locked in. Whereas before you were miserable and free. And
It's like when you go on that extended leave, right? For those in the deployment realm, when you went home on R&R and you tasted that freedom and you had to go back and it was miserable.
well, and to that point, you know, when I talked about my transition, I had National Guard units and reserve units calling me saying, "Hey, we got non-deployable contracts for ops. You know, you don't have to do much, AGR time, all that stuff." And I turned every single one of them down because one, I knew what they were. I knew the lies that they were trying to sell me. I knew what non-deployable really meant when you tell me we're non-deployable, but you're going on a peacekeeping mission somewhere.
You're just not going to the combat zone.
Yeah, exactly.
That SRP looks completely different.
but every single time, even when I was miserable, I was like, no, because the moment that I stepped back into the realm of what I just left, I left for a lot of reasons. Why do I want to go back to what I just chose to turn my back on?
Yeah.
And when you retire, it's a little bit different because that's a career ender versus an active choice, like John highlighted. And being the only person that did that on this call, I thought that I would have unique insight into that.
Well, yeah. I also had my career ended that way. It was medical. I ended up starting my med board at just after 16 years and ended up staying till almost 18 because the med board took so damn long. But I ended up getting a medical retirement because obviously I'm broken enough. I don't even know what that means anymore. It meant something different when I first got out of the
I know you enough to know that.
Whoa. See, now we're doing personal stuff here. I'm about to jump through that screen. No, but I mean,
bring it.
Okay. We need to change the tone of this conversation real fast because you're getting me excited. So, but I don't even know what I was saying.
You were talking about your medical retirement.
Oh, but you know, that medical retirement is interesting because you're being told to leave. That's one of those situations that doesn't fit in with John's statistic, because once you get out on medical, whether you retire or you're just separated, you can't come back. Mm-hmm. And to what you were saying, John, I think a lot of people do that. And I agree. Don't get me wrong, Trevor. I agree with what you're saying, but I think that a lot of people, because I've had this experience, they transition into the civilian workforce. They don't necessarily want to start a business, and so they go start working for somebody else. Well, the civilian workforce is completely different. We've had this conversation every single time we've talked about the stuff on one of these calls, and then our private ones as well. But, you know, the structure, the organizational stuff, it's just it's way different than when we were on active duty. And most people are more, not everybody, but most people are more for themselves and for their position rather than they are for the entire organization. And we're just not built that way. And say that you can only find something that doesn't pay all of your bills. Well, yeah, I can see why some of these people would want to go on active duty. But one thing that I can't see is that after you've had that hardship, why you would want to put yourself through it again. Because after you sign back up for active duty and eventually have to leave again later, you're going to go through the same stuff again unless you figure out how that whatever special sauce there is to keep that identity crisis, lack of camaraderie, and all that other stuff, unless you figure out how to solve that problem again when you separate the second time. And when it comes to losing all of that, the only way to gain it back is to figure out how to either assimilate or to find that camaraderie again by going and attending some of these military events or whatever that are out. And because they are out in your community, even if you live in Podunk, Iowa, like this guy right here, you can still find him. So you got to look for him and have those genuine conversations. And it doesn't take long, and you'll have a whole bunch of people that want the same thing that you want. And you guys start either hanging out together or, you know, In this case, I have people that call me on a regular basis. One of them is on this call. I'm not going to put him out there, but
John, why are you always bothering JJ?
Well, listen, he's the only person who puts up with me long enough that I call a friend. Trevor,
What do you
just
call
hang
me?
up on me.
What do you call me then?
Yes.
I'm going to call you the meme machine.
You're my source of morale and motivation.
There you go.
But, to both of their points, I think that when you choose to get out, when you get out on time served for good behavior, as I put it, and then you realize that there's something missing. So going back to John's point about reenlistment, about the devil I know versus the devil I don't know, we look at time out as, okay, well, now I'm miserable. I don't remember being this miserable when I was in, but we were just miserable together versus miserable alone. So let me go back and recapture that, reenlist, and then you forget, and then you romanticize it, because hindsight's always 20/20. There's a certain level of PTSD involved, and I don't mean that stress. I mean that stress related, that we repress all of the stuff about spending hours picking up cigarette butts off the ground, getting yelled at for walking on grass, all those dumb things that we did, dumb things that happened in the military. We remember the times when we were out with the guys or the team. And like, I remember having a first sergeant whose safety brief was, if one of you comes in with a black eye, I expect the whole team coming back with black eyes, and I want to hear how the fight went.
Or how about that? Get your hands out your pocket.
That too, but I mean, those
some Air Force clothes. Like, watch out, Sergeant Major! I'm gonna unsheath these knife hands.
But I mean, we don't have that type of camaraderie in the civilian world unless you came from it.
Yeah.
Like, or unless you build it.
Well, but I'm just saying, like,
build it.
Most civilians will never experience that level of camaraderie if they haven't served or done something like a football team or something hard that forges those bonds. And I'll argue that we all build relationships through suffering. And that's what the military is built on, is suffering.
It is.
Since day one.
Well, none of us actually like most of the dumb stuff that people come up with. Gosh, what is his name? Austin Von something.
Oh,
something.
Yeah.
Mandatory Fun Day. He does such a really good job at bringing that stuff to the surface, and how most of it doesn't even make sense. How we have to stand around for hours waiting for something to happen, and then when it happens fast, and then you go to doing nothing again, and there's a formation after work is over today. So we all have to stay here until that formation. And then
how many times
formation gets called off?
How many times were you in the CP for hours waiting for somebody to come in and say, "Hey, platoon sergeant, meeting," just to hear nothing to put out, go home. Yeah. How many hours were we spent wrestling in the team room or or in the CP or whatever it may be, just hanging out, killing time.
Yeah. Yep.
And then at 4:45 we were told, okay, now we got to go do something for 3 hours.
Yeah. And AC says, good idea, Ferries. Yeah, well, I don't even know if the civilian world has ever heard that phrase, to be quite honest with you, but they exist there too.
Oh yeah.
Well, they do. They do, but they're a different one. They're that kid in school that asked for more homework.
Teacher, you forgot to collect your homework.
Shut up.
or in corporate speak, the person who we're about to wrap up that meeting, and then they raise their hand and say, I have a question.
It's always the one who's like, you already had the Q&A session. Be like, all right, yep, closing out. Oh, hey, real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what?
You know that too well. Are you that person?
Well, I was just getting ready to say that, unfortunately, I have been that person before. And I didn't realize it until after it was over. And then I was like, Dang it! I can't believe I just did that.
Why is everyone surrounding me, and why are they holding socks with soap in it?
Oh my god!
Or
Why is everybody going to the arms room and looking at me?
Or in corporate speak, why is everybody looking at me, staring at me when the focal point of the meeting room is up there?
Well, that would have worked if anybody said that but you, Trevor. I'm just saying.
I'm usually the person they're all staring at.
Exactly.
But hey, look, this is going to drive my point that you could create that same hardship in a corporate environment, right?
Yeah.
It's just it usually takes someone like us who's a little attuned to we'll call it inefficient thinking, right? And you could build you in a corporate setting still have that hardship. Those in the trades, absolutely. They will form a bond, military or not, because of that, right? Because there is a shared hardship with hard laborious work. But even in a corporate setting where it's a little more clean, it's a little more desk and cubicle. If you've ever watched the movie Office Space, they show it perfect how you can build that camaraderie. Now just don't go off stealing fractions of a penny multiple times, but doing it wrong. And
what about the printer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes you got to steal the printer, but to my point is that's how you start building it. If you are that veteran and you're entering this new role, that's what you need to start doing first. Find those commonalities, right? I know JJ, you and I talk a lot on LinkedIn. Talk about, hey, you're a transitioning service member. You should be putting yourself out there. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. But also at the same time, what we are missing is kind of giving them real advice on, hey, it's okay to take what you've learned in the military and bring it in there without bringing up the military.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and start building those friendships. And unless you're a PM like Trevor, he's just there to make everyone angry, you go out there and you find those hardships and you find those people you're working with and be like, hey, man,
I build the hardships.
You bring the hardships.
I build them. But to the other thing to talk about too is I learned this at one of my first organizations outside of the military. I identified somebody who was military, started talking to them, and then he brought me into the VSO of the company where I got to meet all the other vets. And one thing that we don't highlight enough is when you are, I say this all the time in talks that I give, but when you're a veteran, you are a part of the most exclusive club on the planet, because in any organization, there's vets all over the organization. And as soon as you play your vet card to them and we exchange a couple of things to pre-qualify each other, they're on your team. They will help you. They will answer questions. They will make introductions. They will do all the things that you need. And you can fast forward through probably 3 layers of bureaucracy half the time, because there are vets at all levels of the organization. And at this one of the people in the VSO was a senior VP. So I got to rub elbows once a month with the senior VP. He knew me by name as a contractor. So fast forward a few years, I was at a conference, ran into him, and he stopped and talked to me and ignored a whole lot of other people. And these are the kinds of things that we don't talk about enough, that we have the secret handshake. People are just reluctant to use it when they think it's self-serving, but really you could be helping that other person by being able to share that experience of being a fellow veteran, fellow military.
Yeah. Well, let's build a bridge, because what both of you just got done saying, both extremely valid. Yes. Oh, sorry. This side. So if it's Trevor above my hand, I think that's the right one. So with what Trevor's saying, we have that instant camaraderie with other veterans that are in the workplace. Absolutely. We are the biggest club probably in the country. It doesn't matter where you go. If you stand out in front of a VA and start striking up a conversation, it's going to happen. You go to the VFW, it's going to happen. Go to the workplace and talk to the VSO, it's going to happen. On the other side of that,
you go to your kid's school.
That too. Yes, it's going to happen. But on the other side of that, we have to assimilate. if we want things to go well, because we may be able to make friends with all those veterans that we work with. Sure. But what if none of those people work in our section or even adjacent to us in any sort of a way? Well, now we got to figure out how to kind of build some sort of a bridge to create the camaraderie in the situation that we're currently in, because Lord knows that when we were on active duty, those bonds were made because things suck. Well, guess what? I don't care what job you do in the civilian workforce, you owning your own business with a staff, having a job where you're working as part of another staff or on the ground or whatever. There are aspects of any work situation that just suck. And most of the times, if you weren't getting paid your paycheck at that job, you wouldn't be there. So how do you recreate that bond again? You teach other people how to embrace the suck instead of just sitting there quietly, which is what a lot of them do, or they complain and they get upset and whatever the case. Well, you don't have to get upset to complain. You can complain and laugh and make fun of this person and that person and still have a really, really good time, as long as you're not violating some sort of an HR policy. We got to set that line somewhere, because a lot of the HR policies around this stuff, I don't even think they make any sense. Have fun.
Well,
you're there. Do what you got to do.
Here's one thing that I want to highlight, since we're talking about camaraderie and building that bond. I used to always think, oh, the guys that wear the veteran hats and the bold patterned shirts that we all make fun of. You know, I heard this a while ago and it stuck with me. That, do you know why most of those Vietnam vets wear the Vietnam vet hat with all the pins on it and stuff?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and say during that era, especially, they felt extremely invalidated. I mean, those guys were spit on in the whole 9 yards. And so now that people appreciate the military again, because they're not calling us a bunch of, no, I'm not going to say all the names, but they're saying we did all kinds of unspeakable things and that's a bad thing. Well, it's not. It's a part of war. All people do all kinds of crazy things when they're in war. It just happens. But now that they're appreciated again, they want to stand out, because I'm just going to be honest with you, they deserve it.
No. The reason that a lot of people, that I was told that a lot of the guys and girls that wear those hats and shirts and stuff, it's to self-select themselves, to say, I did this to attract the other people that aren't bold enough to wear that stuff, to share that experience with. Because raise your hand if you see someone wearing a hat that, like John, if you see someone wearing a hat that says CAV or mobility or whatever it may be, you always make it a point to say, yeah, I did that too, to them, and make a passing comment.
Yeah.
It's not the majority of those people, from what I've been told, at least, is they wear it as a flag to say, come talk to me about this. If you're not comfortable talking about it publicly, I am.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really powerful thing as a message to put out there, because we all make fun of the people that buy the Death from Above paratrooper shirts and I don't know what, we all make fun of CAV regardless. So it doesn't matter what you wear.
It's fair.
But
I mean, you know what the CAV symbol is, right?
Yeah. But we make fun of it while we're in, but when you get out, you still make fun of it. But if you recognize, maybe, hey, that person is so confident, they're willing to make themselves look a little silly to let someone know you can strike up a conversation with me about this because I did it, or at least I'm claiming I did it. It's a brave thing, in my opinion, to be willing to do that, because I've stopped wearing a lot of military stuff in public. Just kind of outgrew that phase, but also, if I did, I'm sure people would recognize it.
Yeah, we had a
but we just look at your face and we could tell.
Yeah, we had somebody watching here. He's AC. He said, I found it hard to be a supervisor and people knowing I was in the service. Then my style, according to them, is a boot camp style of leadership. No matter what I do, even though nothing has changed, any authority you present will fall in that category. And any accountability on their part is now harder because they just have to go to HR and reference my service, and it's used against me like I was a drill sergeant. And I know for a fact you weren't, because I served with you. So that's not to call you out, but he did get called. But you know, that is interesting. And I think we had this conversation just a little bit last month, where there's a certain air, there's a stigma, about us. And it's, you know, Alan, I'm gonna be honest with you, that drill sergeant sort of thing, people tend to criticize what they don't understand. What they're missing is, I guarantee that when you became that supervisor, you probably did a very good job, because you did on active duty, bringing your team together. And you guys probably did a very good job at whatever you were charged to do in that position you were doing, because you understand something that a lot of other supervisors don't understand. And that's how to bring people together and get them to do stuff as a team. And they may talk trash about you, but that could be, to a certain extent, maybe a little bit of jealousy, or maybe they just don't like the vernacular that you're putting out there. Lord knows we have plenty of interesting things when it comes to our vernacular. But you know, when that whole stigma that we have, it's a lack of understanding, and it's actually our responsibility to pull people off to the side and ask them questions about it. Use that as an opportunity to build a relationship. I didn't at my first job or my second job. My last job, I most certainly did that, because they would always say, "Oh man, you were in the military, so you're like this because you're a super hard ass." And I would wait until nobody was around, and I would say stuff like, "Well, why did you say that? I don't exactly understand where that's coming from. And I don't believe I am that way, but I would like to get your perspective."
Did you explain to them that you were mobility?
Did you give them the knife?
Well, and here's something that I don't know if either of you have experienced this, but at one of the organizations I was at, I was trying to get into the PMO. I knew the PMO director, who was prior military, and I was actually told by people in his organization that he treats military different than civilians, in that he expects more out of prior service because he knows what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of what we talk about. He was actually holding it against me that I was military, because he expected a military mentality and a military mindset. Whereas with civilians, they got away with a lot more, because in his eyes, they just weren't as well trained as I was, or as the military was. And I didn't get a job with his team, but that was one thing that actually turned me off from wanting to work there. Was I didn't want to be judged differently because of my military background. I wanted to be judged with my peers as peers, not peers from uniform and peers out of uniform.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here. I agree with both of you, but I do want to play devil's advocate to give another side of this. And I put this on the chat on LinkedIn with AC, is there, in his scenario, and I caught myself doing it too when I was first out, and I took my first job out of the military, was we have developed a style of speaking to each other, and even when it's not aggressive, it's very, very unique, even to the civilian side. So
it's direct.
You may not have been getting, it's very, very direct, and it may not be aggressive, it may not be hostile, and you may have clean language the whole way, but that very direct approach and the body language that people feel is so huge in that communication. And we veterans and military forget the actual body language that's involved, because we've always been, hey, here's just the facts, here's what we got to do, here's the mission parameters, go get this done, because it's already 18:30, we all want to go home, and ops sat on this all day because they just couldn't distribute information fast enough, right? Whatever. So we have that style, but when you kind of reel it back, if you're able to, like JJ said, pull them aside and be like, hey, what's going on here? I just don't understand. You can start picking that apart and feeling it. Yeah. Now going to what Trevor was talking about, I kind of do want to, me personally, if I'm working for another veteran, I kind of do want to be held to a higher standard, because I know I am a higher standard. And that's not to say civilians are bad, but because I do have those refined soft skills through my 20 years of service, I should be held a little higher to a standard. But at the same time, right, look at the fairness of it. If I'm looked at equally to my civilian peers, it's not going to be hard for me, and I'm speaking only for myself, to outshine someone. But at the same time, I could fall into the trap and be like, well, hey, I remember being a specialist once. I could sink down to the lowest level of acceptability, right? And that's a personal choice. I'm not saying you do that. I'm just saying there's two coins for this.
But here's where you could change that too. One is, when you were talking about body language, you're not in charge. Don't cross your arms when you're talking to me. But I mean we make some of these jokes like knife hands, arms crossed, hands in your pockets, all those different jokes. They're there for a reason, and they're not just jokes.
Yeah.
Like I've done this experiment with my kids a couple of times, that if you say you're in trouble and you say it in a cute, funny voice, they don't believe you. But if you say it in a stern voice, they believe you. And you could say, so you say your message delivery is just as important as the message itself. And to John's point, body language is important. Yeah. But I would also challenge what John said about how, I can outshine my peers because I've got better training. But why not take that training and transfer it over to my peers to bring them up to my level rather than sinking down to theirs?
Yeah. Well,
and that was part of my point, right?
Yeah.
You could easily lean back and be like, okay, if this is what acceptable is, right? And I talk about this a lot when I talk culture in business and working with some of the organizations I do, is you could either sink back to that lowest denominator or you could raise it. And that's what that goes into a whole different series of what you accept and what you foster. But straight to
are those talks sheathed with your knife hands?
Yeah, I at least have one sheathed and one unsheathed, just to let everyone know that it is ready. We have it on amber, right?
Have it on amber. Well,
did you hear that Chuck Norris actually had knives for hands? He wore covers.
Yeah.
For everyone else's safety.
That's why he has a beard. It's to spare you that fist.
Now I have to remember what I was going to say. Oh, okay. Back to serious stuff. So to John's point, there's a lot of people in the civilian workforce. And actually I've talked to people who are as high as VP who don't understand the concept of leading up and down the chain of command. So what Trevor brought up that addressed what John was saying is that it's our responsibility to help those people get to where we are. Well, you know what? You have influence at any level that you serve in any job, whether you're military or not. You don't have to be in a position of authority to have authority. You don't have to be in a position of authority to teach people how to be better people in the workplace, and then model that and be the example of that wherever you work. And that's what gets people recognized, and people do appreciate that sort of stuff when you start modeling that, and that right there, doing it in a way where you're not forcing your training and opinions on other people, but just telling them this worked for me and then modeling it. That is how you lead up and down the chain of command. By the way, I've had bosses of mine at some of these civilian organizations that I've worked for say, I don't understand why your team just does anything you ask them to do all the time. I mean, I understand that they're charged to do a certain job, but they're like happy to do it. And I said, I treat them like human beings, and people don't understand that. But you also got to model that, right? I mean, so when you tell people that this is what they're supposed to be doing, you have to show the way, not just know the way. And so that I think that kind of brings that all together, and that will also make you an authority where you work. Say you're working in a big corporation, people are going to see that, and they're going to want to model that too, because if they're having difficulty leading their teams, well, I won't say Trevor, if John's able to do it.
Seriously, listen, guys, if I can do it,
Well,
anyone can do it.
You know, I used to have a boss because our team was on salary, and he would say there's 168 hours in a week to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And inevitably, he said, I don't care if you work late. I don't care. But then there were also plenty of days where we would have our team meetings on Friday morning. And he would say at the end of it, he's like, I see 6 inches of sunshine outside. If you don't have anything to get done, disappear for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of leadership that, to JJ's point, those are the types of leaders that we want to follow, because we all remember those days in the military where we would show up for PT, we were tired, we were miserable, and then you were just praying for it. And then you heard zonk, and everybody disappeared except for the new people who had no idea what that meant. And then someone came back and just yanked them off the field.
Where's everybody going?
But I mean, but just the 1% hope that would come out that one day that you were miserable was enough to get you to show up.
Yeah.
Because you knew that was a hope. And I'd say that as a leader, that sometimes that's all you need to inspire in your people, is that 1% of hope sometimes that something good is going to happen, and it's not just going to be an angry lashing at you of how you screwed up today.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Tim, I'm not going to say his last name, Paul. Anyway, I'm not going to mess it up, Tim, because you took the time to make a comment. So I'm going to be respectful. But he said a bunch of stuff about how he appreciates bringing people on as a member of his team. But at the end, he says, I don't wear military stuff, as only military people really understand, and then further understand the mind of being in wars. They do criticize what they don't understand. And that statement, gosh, based off of what we're saying right now and what we've been saying for the past 20 minutes, any of you who are veterans who are listening to this conversation should have this one key takeaway. If people treat you different than they treat everybody else, it's because they don't understand why you say the things that you say, or why you do the things that you do. So help them understand.
I'll take that one step further, because I was in, we were all in during the GWAT.
Yep.
What?
And I remember this vividly. I was on a plane traveling somewhere, sitting next to a complete stranger, struck up a conversation about what I do, what do you do? And I said I was infantry in the Army in the 82nd. And then after asking me what I did and what infantry is, I got called all the names in the book. I was accused of war crimes. I was accused of every single thing that the military had done wrong was single-handedly my responsibility as a E4. Mm-hmm. And I just took it, because that was part of the job, was just being respectful. And then at the end, I would say, now, can I tell you about about what my experience is, and explain some of the things that I saw over there? Honest, little bit filtered, but tried to explain to them what you see on the TV isn't always the experience of 90% of the people over there. And you also highlight that what we do day in and day out, it's not for us. It's for the people to the left and the right of us, because if I'm looking out for them, they're looking out for me.
Yeah.
And when you explain things like that to them, they start to get it a little bit more, that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. And when you dumb it down to the point where you're explaining it in terms that somebody can understand, mm-hmm. they change the tone of voice, and they change the tone of the conversation a little bit, to not attacking you, but being curious.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, it is actually our responsibility as former service members to bring that mentality to the civilian workforce. We are still charged with the same stuff we were charged with back in those days. The only difference is now we're not under contract anymore.
We're ambassadors.
We're ambassadors, for the United States of America. We really, really are. And so, just criticizing people for not understanding us is wrong, because how many times when we were on active duty did people not understand us and we just made fun of it? Well, that was the culture there. But the difference is, now that you're in the civilian world, they tend to criticize more than they do take the time to understand. So you got to filter through the BS and just have candid conversations, because if you don't, then you're not leading. You're following, and you were trained to lead, not always to follow. You had to follow for a certain amount of time. That was part of your job to learn. And once you started gaining rank and moving forward and doing good things, you were given the opportunity to lead. Taking the uniform off doesn't mean that your time to lead is done. It's just beginning.
Well, I'd say though, in the civilian world, be careful, right? You need to have tact, because there are just people out there. They purposely fear what they don't know, but they have no intention to learn, right? And as you know, all you got to do is get on a text chain with.
I'm listening.
He said something really profound as he broke up. I'm sure.
I guarantee it was extremely profound.
But one of the things too, since John's frozen,
I froze. Am I back?
But one of the things too to highlight is, you may be the first person that person that's berating you has ever met that actually wore a military uniform.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the first person, and they've got all these preconceived notions about us that they've been building on for years. And then you're the first person they meet. So how do they know anything about you or who you are or what you do if you don't try and explain it to them, rather than just feel attacked and attack them back?
Yeah, that doesn't get you anywhere. There's no reason to. I mean, that's not that also goes against what I just got done saying. You're not leading if you're
Exactly.
attacking people back. You're certainly not.
But that's the idea, though, is that thinking about it they're not naive, they're not dumb, they're not uneducated. They've just never been put in the position of having somebody who was in the military in front of them to talk to, because they've always heard stories of their brother's cousin or their nephew or their brother's friend, but never actually talked to somebody.
Yeah. Now, John, please finish saying what you were saying, because you were back in black there for a couple minutes.
Yeah. I don't even know where it cut out. I just saw some of my computer's like, Trevor has banned you.
Yeah, you were talking to us about how what was it?
We make it to the people were trolls.
Yes.
Okay.
Negative people will always want to be negative, and so I have a feeling where you were going is that you got to find a way to exit some conversations gracefully. But I don't know. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
No, that's what it was. You just have to have that tact, and you have to realize that some people are just going to rage bait you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is. You just have that tact and that professionalism to end the conversation, break contact, and just go about your day, right? They're of no consequence no matter what kind of smack they talk.
And the best answer is always, I'm going to end this conversation right now because I don't feel comfortable continuing it, or I'm going to end it because I have anything better to do with my day than to continue this. Or
I would not say that.
No, but I mean, make up something.
I always say I agree to disagree. I think we should probably leave it there.
Yeah. And I remember I
gotta go.
Okay.
I remember I was talking with someone, and we were talking about different things from military experience. And he said, everybody's experiences are different.
Yep.
We all share the same overarching story, but everybody's details are different to some extent. Yep. And sometimes you can just end the conversation with, this was my experience, and leave it there, because you can't argue with someone when they say, this is what I did, this is what happened to me, unless you can prove that they're lying.
Right. Yeah. Well, we have reached 59 minutes. I think we should start with John and then work away around the three of us and just do the closing comments. So we started this conversation today, and the whole theme of it was supposed to be why we lose camaraderie when we leave the military and how to regain it. What are your closing comments on that, John?
So my closing comments for this is don't be afraid to get out there when you separate and have those conversations. Find the commonalities you have with wherever you're at, because there's always going to be commonalities and there's always going to be things that you can bond with people with, whether or not they served. But definitely make sure you find your people, right? As you see here, the three of us in this group, none of us live near each other, but we have that shared hardship. We could talk. There are sounding boards when just sometimes we need that camaraderie, that peace, that network, that you name it, or a funny meme. It's just you share it, you build it, and then just remember you are in control of you. So do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. What about you, Trevor?
I'll say that you're never alone. There's always somebody out there that you can reach out to and talk to. And if you're unsure of where to start, going back to John's point, find the groups. Go on Facebook, go on LinkedIn, go on wherever your social media drug of choice is. Find the groups where there's veterans. Find the groups where there's, you can go all the way down to people that served in your company, in your battalion of your division, and find, if that's the minutia of detail you want to find that. But find those. There's no shortage of people and groups out there where you walk in that you virtually walk into the group and you say, hey, I'm Trevor. I served in the 82nd. I was in during the GWAT. There will be comments of people saying, hey, where were you at? When were you there? What'd you do? And the conversations go from there, because I've never once talked to somebody and said, hey, when were you in? And they blow me off like, no, walk away. They always want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they know you've done it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I won't really say much more than what they already said, because they summed it up pretty good. But what I will say is that it is our responsibility to assimilate. When we would say, I'll use the example of serving in a foreign country. When we move to a foreign when we PCS to a foreign country and serve in Germany, or if we deploy to Iraq, what's the first thing we do before we start working there? Well, we go through culture training to learn what's going on in that new organization. Now that you're out of the military, it's time to assimilate into civilian life. So learn what it takes to be a successful civilian and go out there and kill it. You got what it takes. You know what the steps are that you got to take. Get out of your head and get back into the game.
Did JJ just condone killing?
No.
My bad.
Don't take the puppy.
But seriously, that's what these conversations are all about. Please make a comment below this if there's a specific topic that you guys want to hear, because we're here for you all. AC said it best. He said, thank you, brothers. Love y'all. Well, guess what? We feel the same way for all of you out there who are supporting us. And if there's anything we can do to support you, if you don't want to hear from JJ, that's fine. If you'd rather talk to Trevor, but you can't get a hold of him through this post, or you'd rather talk to John, you feel free to reach me on my platform. And if you're seeing it shared on another platform and you want to talk to me, we'll let them know. It doesn't matter who you talk to. When you transition from the military and it's that crucial time where you just need somebody to talk to about all the hard stuff that you're going through, find somebody and do it. Do not stay at home and just get stuck in your head.
Absolutely.
We always say in the military, someone else did this before you. Remember that when you get out, someone else has done that before you too.
Yep.
And there's going to be people after you as well.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Yep. That cycle continues. Don't think you're the only one, because you're not. All right. Well, that concludes another episode of Discharged and Unfiltered. Please don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you see this. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you want to talk about. Otherwise, we appreciate you showing up for us. We're going to continue showing up for you, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.